Ethan, in the last podcast, you asked me about myself, and it was a little uncomfortable, and you caught me on the hop because you asked me things that I hadn't really prepared for. But I did mention a couple of books that have been really useful for me. And one of them is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And you've come across this as well.
Yes, I use it personally. I forgot it.
I think we've all forgotten it. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that you and I were just talking about before we started recording was it's sometimes called the Eisenhower Matrix. And it's also in the Stephen R. Covey's book. It's in under the habit 3, put first things first. And it's the time management matrix. And the time management matrix has got 4 areas. And we start off at the bottom. There's two pigeonholes or 2 matrix at the bottom. It's not important, but urgent. So these are activities like phone calls, mail, emails, it'll be these days, text messages, that kind of stuff. And there's not important and not urgent. So this is trivia, busy work, some phone calls, time wasters, pleasant activities. These days we could translate all of these and I could put in TikTok as not urgent and not important. But the whole point of some of those social media things is they want to make you feel like they're urgent and important. But really, in the long scheme of things, they're not. So I would put not urgent and not important, Messenger, TikTok, things like that. So those are the not important things down the bottom. Then at the next row up, there's 2 more. So we've got urgent on the left and not urgent on the right. So we've got important but not urgent. These are things that you need to do in order to prevent these items becoming quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. These are the things like your assessment. It's urgent and it's important because it's due today. It's due at 9 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's due at 9 o'clock. It's now urgent and important. So now you're going to work on it and you're going to hurry to get it through. Now, in quadrant 2, assessment was not urgent, but important. Now, if you finished your assessment in that quadrant a day before, 2 days before, when it comes to the day to hand in your assessment, it's not urgent. It's important, but it's no longer urgent. It's done. You can hand it in. It's proofread. I tried to get this across to my students as well. You said that your tutor wrote it on the board. I wrote it on the board for my students. You know, what's urgent and important, what's not urgent, but still important. And if you do the things that are not urgent but important, they don't fall into the quadrant 1 of becoming urgent and important. You've prepared for them and you've done the work ahead of time. And just make sure you don't spend too much time on trivial things like not urgent and not important. But there are some things like I was sketching the other day with my friend Jen, and that's a skill that you have to keep going. It's not urgent, and it's tempting to say it's not important. But if you don't do that skill, if you don't practice that skill on a regular basis, you can't use it when you need it. So when you're in front of a client and you need that skill to draw, you're missing it because it was in quadrant 2 and you left it alone and now you've lost the skill. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Sketching, it's a perishable skill. You lose it. So I did mention, when you asked me about myself, I did mention Stephen R. Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So since you asked about it, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Because I think that these habits are really useful. That I've had this book for probably 30 years. I'm sorry to say I've only read it a couple of times. I should really read it more often. What Stephen R. Covey found, it's the 7 habits of highly effective people. Not rich people, not poor people. They're effective people. So people that get things done. CEOs, managers, that kind of stuff. And he's given it into 3 areas. So there's 7 habits. These 3 habits form what he calls the private victory, moving from dependence to independence. So dependence is an area we want to move out of being dependent. We're no longer teenagers. We don't live with our parents any longer. So number 1, be proactive, doing things without being asked. And if you're in a job, being proactive is so useful. Your boss doesn't have to ask you. You get recognized for being proactive. So it's a really good thing. So habit number 1, be proactive. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. And I'm always saying this to my students. Start with the end in mind, because if you don't know where you're going to end up, how are you going to get there? It's like going for a drive without turning on your Google Maps. Where are we going? I don't know. How will we know when we get there? I guess we're already there. It sounds funny to say that, but I've got students that start an assessment without thinking of the end. What are they trying to do? They're just like a random stream of consciousness until they make up something that looks close to the answer. So always begin with the end in mind. Habit number 3 is putting first things first. This is the really hard one. That's where that matrix comes in useful, putting first things first. It's so tempting for us to look at YouTube instead of reading a book, or relaxing instead of going out sketching. Exercise is one of those things that ensures that you are able to continue to produce at a high level. So you've got the ability to produce, production capability, but you also need to make sure that you protect that by exercising, by eating well, sleeping, and those things. And when you're young, it's tempting to think that sleep's one of those things that you can do without, because you can party all night and then you can hand in your work at the last minute. But long term, this isn't going to work. So putting first things first. Now, those 3 habits lead to independence, being independent from other people, being able to work on your own, being able to be, your people in your office can rely on you. But that's only the first stage. That gets you to be independent. The second stage of the next 3 habits, think win-win. Now, I know that it's tempting to think win-lose. And there's some people at the moment who are running countries who think win-lose. You think win-win, particularly in the architectural profession, when you're negotiating with your client, it's a win-win. You're going to give them something absolutely fantastic, and in return, they're going to give you some good money. It's a win-win situation. You're trying to both get there. We're going to start with the end in mind. We want to build the house. How are we going to get there? These are the steps we're going to go through. And we need to think win-win so that we actually get there and both of us are happy. When I buy my motorbike, that's a win-win. I'm not losing money. I'm paying what I think it's worth to get something that I really would like and something I will continue to enjoy. Every time I jump on that bike, I smile. It's a win-win. So what's the next habit? So think win-win. Then we've got first understand, then to be understood. So the idea is that we really want people to understand us. But what Stephen Covey is saying is that if you try to listen to the other person's point of view first, if you try to understand where they're coming from, then you will understand what their problems are. You'll understand what their concerns are much more easily. And by that stage, you'll be able to answer their concerns by understanding what they have to say. And I think it's important that we seek to understand. And the final of those habits, habit number 6, is synergize. Now, this is what we're doing. We're synergizing. I don't know all the answers. You don't know all the answers. In fact, even if it wasn't for you helping me to do these podcasts, I wouldn't even go and do the research I need to do to answer the questions. But you've really helped me, and by together we've synergized and we've created something much bigger than we could do on our own. Habit number 7, the last habit, is sharpen the saw. And the sharpen the saw is really learning. It's continuous professional development. Doing CPD. In the book, I'm listening to the audiobook at the moment, and in the book he tells the story of someone who spent 7 hours sawing a tree, and someone comes up and says, why don't you take half an hour and sharpen your saw? I can't sharpen my saw, I'm too busy sawing, but the saw's blunt. You don't use a chainsaw, do you?
Yeah, I use chainsaw, small one.
So I've got a one. It's got an 18-inch bar on it, and the teeth are really big. Now, after I've used it, I sharpen it, because the next time I go to use it, it'll take big chunks out of the timber and it'll cut quickly and effectively. And if you don't sharpen the saw, if you don't sharpen that chainsaw all the time and keep it sharp, then it starts to misbehave. It doesn't work well. Instead of cutting through the wood, it burns its way through the wood. It's much better to keep that saw sharp. It's like chopping down a tree with an axe that's blunt. It's really hard work. So you want to make sure that you sharpen those things. And I'm thinking about I've got my business now, I've got my website. My website is the sharpen the saw for my customers. They come along every month and I teach them something new, re-energize them, teach them something. So it's really good to do that. So you got a copy of your book. Which is your favorite habit?
My favorite habit is be proactive. Well, the basic and the first one. So you need to, I need to be proactive. Otherwise, you can't proceed to other levels. Right. Being proactive also means that it may not be the end fully what happens in my mind, because sometimes I can't imagine what will be the end. For example, like when I run the business or when I start a business, what will be the end? I don't know. It's running a business is being figured out along the way, but it's a small step, not all the way to the end, but I know what the next step is. being proactive is the first and my favorite habit, because if I wanted to become a boss, that means I need to wake up early. I need to make a phone calls. I need to go and seek the ideas. I need to talk to the people. And it's also true for the construction management. It's also true for architectural technologists. Why? Because these are all businesses.
Think of a project manager that's not proactive.
Oh.
He spends his whole life putting out fires. So if you're proactive as a construction manager, you're looking at what's coming up, you're planning for what's coming up, and you're making sure that everything's in place ready for that next stage that comes up. So if we want to pour concrete columns, the formwork has to be in place. If we want the formwork to be in place, we have to make sure we've ordered the formwork, timber, steel, whatever it is. So yeah, you have to be proactive. If you're managing a contract, you want that project to run successfully, then you have to be proactive.
I've had some great things, and also I need to read the drawings, understand it, should on all the steps. On that is initially I don't know. I just when I, as I mentioned, my tutors started at one started drawing urgent but important. This thing you need to delegate, etc., etc., etc. So I just started learning. Okay, so from there I started organizing my work tasks into these quadrants. Okay, this is important and urgent. For example, like last week, I've lost,
That's urgent and important because you need it to travel.
and within a short while, and I can't get it any proper document from. But of course, so I sent an email saying, this is urgent and important. You need to get it now. So that is urgent and important. Reason I literally wrote very urgent and important, and don't overlook. And I want to know it. So that's what happened. And then, yeah, take win-win is to me, because when I do construction any business, not just construction or other thing. So we need to negotiate. We need to talk a lot. When you think about winning in a mind for other people, it's easier to negotiate, right? With your bid, I give you this, you will get this. And so that's easier than negotiate.
But I think when tenders are analysed, it's really tempting that you don't think win-win. Because often you're looking for the lowest tenderer. But you've also got to be aware that tenderer has to make money. If you see a mistake in those tender documents that they've submitted, you know that's going to be win-lose. They're going to lose money on that project, and they're going to make your life difficult because they'll always be looking to get some more out of you. So every time you've forgotten a detail, every time there's something missing on the drawings, that costs twice as much as it should do because they need to win. If you think win-win, then if you notice an error in the tender, you should get rid of it because you know that it's going to be a win-lose situation. And then analyze the other tenders in terms of the quality probably first. That's a whole nother discussion. We could talk about it another. So when you look at these 7 effective habits, a lot of them apply to the construction industry as well as applying to every other industry.
Yes. Yeah. One interesting thing is I'm going to talk about other industry. So that thing is put the end, begins with the ends in mind. So I have a friend who is a chef. He used to work in a Michelin star restaurant, and the head chef teach him the same thing, begins with the ends in mind. So when my friend start to make a new menu or recipe, and his head chef say, okay, you are very creative, you are very good at tasting, but begin with the ends in your mind. So, how you want to, after you cook, and how you want to plate, and how much you want to give it to your customers, and etc. So since they can apply it in any cases, any situations, for if you really want to grow your business, that's how is it. I think that's the reason this book has been sold all over the world and from millions of copies and translated into many languages, because it can apply to any situations or any industry. And
So-
I use it I stick it on my office wall in 2015. So when I became an assistant project manager, so I put it on my office wall and print out what I would do next. I was so excited and say I want to be very effective project manager. So I just put it on my wall and remind myself every day.
I think, as I said, as you asked me the other day, and I mentioned it, I've been going to the gym because I need to think win-win. No, make sure I keep myself fit. But that's one of the things I often listen to is that book where it reinforces, that we're not always perfect. We have to work at these things. And I think that to start with the end in mind, I tried to get my students to understand how important that was. And I don't know whether it came across or not. So I'm hoping it did. But I always start with the end in mind. What am I trying to achieve long term? What's my 5-year goal? Because if you've got a 5-year goal and you know what you're trying to achieve, then it's much easier to make a 1-year goal that'll help you get towards that. And if you've got a 1-year goal, it's easy to make a 1-month goal because that 1-month goal will help you get towards your ultimate goal in the end. And that makes it a lot easier to make choices. Oh, I'm going to offer you a job. Wait a minute, let me look at my long-term goal. Does that job help me get to my 5-year goal, or is it getting in the way of that 5-year goal?
I think we need to wrap up today.
Oh, so that was just one of the books, but I've got a whole library of those kinds of books, which I think are really vital. And I think we underestimate how much it's important to our students, not just to teach them architectural technology, but to teach them these soft skills that go around it. How about if I put in the show notes, how about if I put a couple of links to books that I think are really worthwhile?
Yeah.
So there's one by Simon Sinek called, what's it called? It Starts With Why. So why are you doing this? There's got to be a reason why you're doing this thing. So you need to start with why. There's other good books that I've got. So I'll put a bunch of them up and we'll see what we think. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you next week. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you like this, don't forget to go to Spotify and subscribe on Spotify. It really helps Ethan and I to make more podcasts. See ya.